Good morning. What is up, everybody? It is Monday. Another opportunity to get absolutely after it. And make sure that folks know that I'm on. If you're not in Discord, come check it out. Boom. JT Irby, what's up? What's up? What's up? All right, so we're gonna start with a little bit of planning today. It's Monday morning. Want to do it right. So we'll write down some trade ideas. Kind of what we got to start here. There is no data today. What's up, y'all? Look at the calendar. Yep, no data today. Subramanian, what's up? Y'all really, what's up? Carbs, what's up? Garrett, what's up? Paulo, what's up? What's up, big dog? You're a big dog, brother. You're big. I'm actually trying to get big again. I was looking at a YouTube video I did like a few months ago, man, when I was jacked, and I was like, wow, I'm not jacked anymore. But we're getting jacked. Let me turn my music down. It's incredibly loud. What's up, Dallin? What's up, OG? What's up, Quad? Conquistador? All right, let's go ahead and bust out to the weekly chart. Okay. We're not going to worry too much about current price action. Okay. Go ahead, take a deep breath, relax. Chill a little bit. We are pushing down a little bit this morning under that 4-hour trend line that you saw there earlier. So on the weekly, last week we had this weekly consolidation, right? You remember I mentioned last week that we could chop on this time frame, okay, quite a bit. We made a move, right? Now we've been chopping. We are squeezing up into this level here on ES. NQ is a little bit different, right? It pushed higher and then just has this kind of low volume, very, very small body doji, right? Long wicks. Either side, whenever you get a doji like this, either side of this is likely to get retested. Okay, right? So we should expect some chop around this candle before we move away from the zone, right? This candle being last week's weekly on NQ for sure. We could get a double doji as well, pattern. That would make a lot of sense with this setup. And I could definitely see us coming back to 23,421 here. Actually, let me put on my VP. See what we have here. Just like every other week, every other session, every other stream. You can't see my screen. Oh, you're just looking at my beautiful face. Amazing. Hold up. Good call out. I'm just over here talking. So the week that I was referencing was the prior week. Okay. So we have 23,421. I see us, both sides of this candle are open to being retested, right? There's a little shelf down here, 23,677, this area here, right? We see like there's a pretty obvious like delta in the VP here, right? I'm not going to leave that on my chart, but, you know, I'll call it out here on the stream. You know. So we'll go to the daily. Good morning, Kirthana. Welcome back. Welcome back. Let's see. Yeah, the daily does have kind of this flaggy pattern on ES. Good round. I could see it coming down a little bit. Let me get rid of this line. I can't remember what this alert is for. There's a low value pocket here. We have the previous highs here. There's a little beginning of another node down here on ES 6431 area. Okay. Whoops. We'll label this top of the next shelf. NQ on the daily. Get rid of all of these lines for now. I'm keeping these trend lines here because the structure is important. We also have on the daily 1, 2, 3. This trend line is heavily being respected on NQ right now. So we're in a daily downtrend. Okay, weekly is consolidating on the higher, and overall we're still in an uptrend, right? Overall, see, we still have this trend line below us supporting us right here. Okay, right. So quite a bit of stuff going on here. We have the higher time frame trend is up. Obviously, we have like this channel that we're in. On the daily last few days, we're coming down a little bit. No tier 1 catalyst today and CPI tomorrow. So CPI is the controlling factor for the week. Okay, so let's go ahead and write some of this stuff down. Okay, we'll characterize the market. One, still in a big time frame uptrend. Last few days respecting downtrend line on NQ. ES, basically consolidating. And you guys can write this in your journal, or I'm just going to write it on the chart so you can see how I'm thinking. Put this in your journal, put it somewhere. It doesn't really matter where you put it. So this type of stuff you want to do every single morning. Okay, before you start trading, get your bearings, understand what you're dealing with. So this trend line is in play. When we're looking at our 4 key levels to interact with the market every single day, right? Four key levels, regardless of the session where you want to look to even consider taking a trade, are going to be prior day high, okay, prior day low, overnight high, and overnight low. Okay. So for respecting this trend line, then we probably want to look for an overnight high or prior day high, or sorry, not a probably an overnight high sweep. If we go prior day high, that would break this trend, right? Okay, so overnight high retest would be probably our best entry for lower. So let's zoom in, see if that's even possible, or did we already miss that one, right? So then you would zoom in on the chart. Let's just expand NQ real quick. Take a look here. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll explain it again for you. Okay, so in a downtrend, okay, we can't necessarily sweep this high that would break this trend, right? So we got to look at where's an edge that would allow us to stay downtrending on this in this daily time frame if we were going to look for a short, right? That's kind of the premise of this whole exercise I'm doing here. If you're waiting for long, then you literally just sit on your hands and wait for a long entry for the macro trend. But assuming you're looking for a short, let's go to the 1 hour. Actually, we see that overnight high is right here. Okay, 23,883, and there's just enough space for us to essentially come and retest this trend line here. But due to the timing of the day, we'd have to do that pretty early here. So right around noon, we would need to come and sweep overnight highs, and then you can position for short. Okay, you need to watch the VP at that time because we did front run this low. Yeah, the question is basically if we swept this low, then I would say just look for higher. This trend line retest could break here, and that could just be the push for higher. So a bit of a weird day. We have competing thesis here. We need a liquidity grab to know which way we're going, right? We failed to sweep this low here. Prior day low was not swept. Okay, and we have not swept overnight high. So we need to see which side gets swept first, and that'll give us some intuition about the intermediate time frames. So lower quality day overall. Shorting this trend line overnight, not a bad idea. I'm still long bias though, guys. Okay, just overall until I get a better signal on the higher to stop doing that. Cool. You guys like it? I'm jamming, guys. Freaking going. What'd you guys do this weekend? How was everyone's weekend? Let me know. Give me some stories. Tell me something good. I am getting off right at 10:30 today. I got to run to the studio. I'll drop a studio update video actually today. I'll do that real quick. Just something real chill. We're about a week out. Let me actually text my contractor right now that I think about it. Whoa. SMK Prabhu, good morning. LOL A7MD, good morning. Take a risk. CHK, good morning. I really appreciate you guys showing up. It means a lot. If you didn't know that, I appreciate you. Lazy weekend. Recouping after a week of 110. Yeah, it's hot. It's hot today. I went out on my balcony this morning. It's hot. So on the lower, while you guys type those stories up, I do want to see about your weekends. We do have a lowercase b-shaped VP, right? So that means that the market is, all the interaction right now is lower, right? You can see that we have this staircase lower. So we need to see a bias start stacking on the top side of this node here to move higher, or this is just going to push lower. Started putting in the rafters of my house this weekend. Nice, man. It's exciting. We played basically all my employees and business partners and stuff. We all played poker at the studio on Friday, and then we drank a lot, smoked a lot of weed. There's a lot of substances were ingested, but we were playing poker, Cards Against Humanity. It's a good time. Oh, it was mostly a good time. My plan right now, by the way, NQ looks pretty weak, but I'm not gonna play any individual candle, right? This does look like it wants to make a leg lower, right? We could see even 23,598, but I'm just gonna chill until we sweep either overnight low, which is coming up on NQ here. CES is lagging. There's a bit of a divergence. Again, CPI is a controlling factor. I said it as a footnote earlier, but it is really important that CPI is tomorrow, okay? I want you guys to keep that in mind as you're looking at all the candles, or maybe if there's some chop today. CPI is, oh, that's Canadian CPI. Never mind, I take that back. FOMC is on Wednesday. All right, I retract that statement. That's Canadian CPI, which isn't as important, which means FOMC is on Wednesday. Dude, my dyslexia be getting me sometimes, huh? So FOMC on Wednesday, and we have unemployment claims on Thursday, as well as flash manufacturing PMI, and Powell speaking on Friday. Wow. So the end of the week is going to be very, very strong and weird. SK Prakar, or SK Praker, 1989. Good morning. Welcome back to the channel. So the plan, by the way, guys, okay, write this down. Okay, today's plan. We got our 4 key levels. These are the 4 areas where we look to even think about getting in a trade. Prior day high, prior day low, overnight high, and overnight low. Those are the best areas every single day to even attempt to take a trade. If you want a high expected value trade. If you want to take a scalp or something else, do your thing. If you make money, cool. The highest expected value trades, and you can go and test this for yourself. Do not take my word for it. Okay, just go look at any individual session. the highest EV you're going to get on any day is waiting for one of these levels to get swept. Okay, if you wait for one of these levels to get swept, your risk and your expected value will be at the first and second best that they'll ever be, right? Obviously, if a prior day high or low is on the table, you'll get stopped out of the relevant overnight sweep, which is fine because you'd still make money. Okay, so it's so important to wait for. This is the reason why, again, I say this in passing a lot, but if you trade off of these levels, even if you're not trading my system, okay, just the math is in your favor, which is what you want. You always want the math to be in your favor. Okay. Jackson Hole, there you go. Had a party at the beach in Italy last weekend. Was national holiday. Sick, man. No trades. Nope. We're waiting for these levels. Really what I want to see here, right, is what does the 4 hour look like? Right now, we're still holding this trend line. I would prefer to short off of an overnight high sweep plus retest of this trend line. Shorting here, even if you're right, the risk is bad, which is what I want you guys to understand. Okay, even if you're right, I'll say it on this individual trade, the risk is bad. And you're not going to make that much money anyways, okay, as opposed to some other choices that will inevitably present themselves later. So I would rather, it's why you got to take big picture, because I'm sure some of you right now are going, whoa, but Forrest, relax. Easier, better trades will present themselves. So this one is so unimportant. And that's really, like, internalizing that is really important if you want to become a better trader. Did you try for the short today? No, I'm not necessarily short biased. If I was going to short, it'll need to be off this level. The way that I trade, once we get to one of these levels, that's the decision point, okay? If I have a really strong bias on the session, let's say that I said, hey, I'm looking for shorts today, then once we swept this, I would go boom. On this time frame, on my screen, we're in a downtrend. We're holding this trend line. But on the higher time frames, we're still in a macro uptrend. And I prefer to take longs, okay? I have a ridiculously high win rate on longs right now. So my strategy and my opinion really as a trader is that I like easy trades with high EV. I'm not necessarily so concerned about just being right on any individual trade. It's more so being very right on a handful of trades. There's a point I wanted to make. Oh yeah, so just reiterate again, wait for these levels or do nothing, right? Just be patient. Which time frame do you find is best suited for entries off of a prior day POC? Good question. I mean, higher the better. I like looking at prior day POCs on like the 4 hour, the 1 hour. You got to look at just the node itself though, right? The entire node is what you're trading off of, not just the line. So that's really, really key. So when you're looking at your actual risk, as soon as you touch the node that the POC is on, any entry there, in my opinion, is an okay entry. Preferably, you like snipe it, right? And you get the exact price. But that's not really what we're trying to do here, right? What we're trying to basically say is trade off of the liquidity. So once you enter that liquidity block, taking a trade there is totally okay. Do we have any naked POCs on the screen as an example? Not really, but see if this pushes lower here. NQ very close to this prior day low, right, from Friday. Basically retested. Yes, nice little top up coming in. If this pushes lower, we'll come down to this 64.31 level. There's this VAL from the 12th floating around here. Let's see if we go after it. Francis, what's good, man? Definitely seeking to have more brain off trades and only. Yeah, man, it's so important and it's crazy too because the only reason that people don't wait for brain off trades is ego, desperation. Like you all have experienced it. You've all had sessions, right, where it was easy trades. You've all chopped yourselves up just for the next day to be the easiest day around. And despite knowing that, you will still fight it. So being able to just let go and not need to try to make money out of every single candle, even the ones you think you have a read on, it's gonna dramatically make you more money. We see the node building and the POC shift down. That's a fairly good sign for bearish continuation. Yeah. So we have this B-shaped VP, right? Lowercase B-shaped VP. And on this time frame right here, right, we are respecting this trend line lower, right? But again, even if I want to play short here, I want a good entry. Okay. I've been trading too long to just, like, I'm just not shorting the lows on principle. Like it doesn't, and I'll say this again and again and again. It doesn't matter if you short the lows and you make money today. Like, if you're not able to do that consistently, it does not matter if you make money today, because you will lose money. It's just mathematically not a smart choice. Doesn't mean to never breakout trade. That's not what I'm saying. I will take breakout trades sometimes. I'm just, Mondays in general, to me, is not the day to be taking, breakout trades. I like to get my bearings on Mondays, and I say this every time. Mondays for me are about getting my bearings, understanding the meta, so that I have a very, very, very strong read later in the week. If you think about, this is one of the things that prop firms has done, is people think about like daily profits. Try to think about your profitability as a trader on a monthly level. It's probably way higher than you guys are thinking about it. But think about it monthly. Think about, I want to be green this month. And if you give your space to be green in a month, that's going to allow you to have more patience, right? For inevitably. Or even on the weekly. So think about green weeks. But if you're thinking about being green on a month, the way that you approach trading changes. You don't need to trade every single day, right? Now you're only thinking, well, I just need a few trades a week, right? Do $2,000 a week, handful of trades, right? Now you're making 8K or whatever number, right? Make a number up, right? It's all about perspective. See how it's just chopping around here? If this comes up, okay, ES as well. ES, we have a little trend line here that I could draw. I'm not going to draw it, but let's actually go to the 4 here. It's 10:02. Let's get this 4-hour top wick that formed. This likely to get retested. Very long body wick. Okay, seen this plenty of times, guys. Anytime you see these long wicks, probably 80-90% of this can get retested, right? So I would not be surprised if the value area high gets touched again here on this long body wick here, right? And they smoke all the people who just shorted there. Would not surprise me. Does he offer a paid course? What college courses would this career benefit from? Math. Look at that, guys. I might be good at this. If you shorted that low, I tried to save you. I do have a course. Go to tradingwithforrest.com, which covers the VPE system. It's like 40 or 50 videos. In terms of courses, just being good at math. A lot of people think trading is just vibes and stuff like that. If you want to be able to trade like derivatives and things like that, you're going to need to be able to do some math. I would even say advanced math. I'm an academic though. Like, I like being able to ask hard questions and fundamentally understand how things work in the universe. So I'm a big math guy. So other than that, though, I don't know if there's a particular degree that's going to help you. If you want to like understand equities and things like that, like, you know, a finance degree is not going to help you, but you want to understand how debt works, money supply a little bit. It's pretty deep, but I would just start digging into how money flows. Parvati S, what's up? Rajamani, I don't know if I remember said hi to you. Ryan, I don't know if I said hi. What's up? I'm from Austin, can't trade the New York. Think you can make a video on how you would trade the overnight sessions? Uh, sure. I'll do that right now. And you know what I just remembered, dude? I forgot to hit record on the stream. Just hit record. So how would you trade the overnight? We're going to zoom into a low time frame just for the sake of example, but I don't even necessarily do this for overnight. So the first thing that I would do, all right, I've got 1 hour before settlement opens, okay, is I want to ask myself, how did the session close? Close is a lowercase b, right? The current meta is a downtrend. We have this trend line above us. Cool. All right, well, I know that if this downtrend is going to continue, it's probably going to come and retest this line. There's also this liquidity up here, okay? So I could take a settlement open long. It's not a bad idea, right? Settlement open long makes sense, right? Coming up to about around here, right? Or some node, there's some structure right here. Okay, obviously with hindsight, we know that the market kind of tapped out right around here. But a settlement open long is not a bad idea, just basically playing the meta, right? You got to remember, there's going to be an initial rush of liquidity right at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, you know, for me, I pay attention at 6, around 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then obviously EU Open is at 3 a.m., right? So you could take that long. Okay, it pops up, does some stuff. Right around, this is at 11:12, right? This is 10 p.m. right here, 2200. Right, that's why it's a time. If you're in Discord, you hear me often say I'll check the market at 10. So right around here, I can understand kind of what the market's going to do. What's the first wave? So here's that first wave here, and then I'm really wanting to see what happens at 3. So 2 or 3 a.m., right? There's going to be the next wave in the market. So the impulses that you're going to trade are either the first impulse at a settlement open, right? You could try to trade into settlement, right? Basically from 11 to 12, right? You could trade the impulse into the 2 or 3 a.m., or you can wait for the post settlement. The other time period that's a really good to trade that I don't really talk about on here, but sometimes I do wake up to see the market at that time, is 6 a.m. So 6, 7 a.m., okay? You're basically trading, what do I think the market needs to do before the open? Okay, all right, it's a really good time frame to trade, right? You could trade into the New York Open. Obviously, you said you're an Aussie, so that one might not be in the cards for you either. But that's how I think about it. So I know that there are times in the market is either executing or is planning to execute, right? There's like a story, there's a narrative, there are waves. And I'm trying to trade these waves. And this is all inside of VPE, obviously, right? Trading the volume profile. But from a timing and narrative perspective, I know that these are key moments in the market story every single day. And I'm always trying to trade in and out of them. Other than that, same mechanics, right? I look for high volume signal candles. But a lot of overnight for me is thinking about what the meta is and setting up for that next day, right? If I even forget all the smaller pieces, but it's just like, what does the next day likely need to look like into the open? And I'm just backtracking into like, okay, what does overnight look like? But I don't trade overnight too often. Sometimes I trade overnight every night because it's like free money. It's really easy, but in general, not too often. Anybody get chopped up shorting that low there? Fess up if you did. I could smell it. Like the stream, please. We're going to resume the giveaways this week. Did you have a mentor who helped develop your strategy? I wish, man. I would have saved a lot more money. No. So my story as a trader, I worked in like this rotation program in college. Not in college, but out of college at a very, very, very retail investment firm, right? Not trading related. This is just more retirement accounts called Edward Jones. Got my Series 7 there, which is like the certification to be a financial advisor or whatever. And had the opportunity to like trade bonds on the bond floor in a short rotation there and just learn about the markets at a very high level. Got really good with doing options math though, right? So I could like I can't do it now. I probably could, but like on paper, like complicated option strategies, like got like a professional options education from there though, right? At that point, because I was a software engineer, so I'm a software engineer by trade, I started dabbling, right? So I've done a few things in my life, but tried to do some algo trading. But this is like 10 years ago. This is a long time ago, guys. This is like pre-prop firm, like everything that's happening today. And then eventually that turned into swing trading. I started doing it more seriously, investing. Really, I was just focused on investing. So I'm huge on investing, which is why I have my other channel called Your Relationship with Money. But I've been trading for probably 8 years, day trading for, 5, 6 out of that. No idea. I've probably been trading for like 9 or 10 years actually. And then I started hitting like 6-figure trades. And I went from there. Made a bunch of money all at once. Had a nice exit, Silicon Valley exit. And basically in 1 year, I made like $1 million from trading, and I made another $1 million from W2. And then I just started chilling. Haven't looked back since. Hi, Forrest. Check my prize. Others got. Am only not getting. JT Irby, haha, short of 71, got out now. Yeah, I would wait for a better entry. Again, this is really important. It doesn't, even if that trade worked out, guys, it's not a good trade. It's not a good trade. It's hard to replicate. That's the problem, right? And so when you're trying to come up with a system with like high expected value, basically every time you turn your trade machine on, you want to know what the odds are of you making money. And if you take low probability trades, low probability doesn't mean that they always fail. This means it's likely to fail. It's just stats, right? Something that only wins 20% of the time wins every 1 out of 5. So saying it over and over again, because it's one of the hardest things I think for new traders to kind of like internalize. So you can see that 4 hour, how I talked about that 4 hour imbalance, right? 89% of it got retested, right? It's exactly what happened right on the open of the next 4 hour candle. Okay, those big wicks will get retested. Okay, they will. Write it down. Just sound like a broken record on that one. So immediate retest of that imbalance higher there. Same thing that I was mentioning on the weekly. Okay, we should expect these long wicks to get retested before we make our next play. So this week to me is playing around this previous week's wicks. Okay, we need to complete this story before I expect anything else to happen. Which means, I'm just gonna have muted expectations until that, runs its course. I will be referencing that every day this week, by the way, guys. So just keep that in mind. I mean, those are the bearings. Those are the constraints for our trading this week. Prior week's wick imbalance. Do you still look at bonds for equity influence? No, I don't look at bonds at all anymore, to be honest. I think on a very, very macro, because I invest in things, I'm also a real estate investor, so I have some real estate holdings. Yes, but on a much larger time frame than probably any of you are thinking. Like really, 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 really big picture. Doesn't really impact my trading. Like intraday speculation, those macro market mechanics don't affect it at all, right? If I'm a billionaire and I have like $500 million in Apple, let's look at Apple, right? Say I've got 500 million shares of Apple, and my entry is, 164. I don't care what happens to interest rates. You know what I mean? Because my entry is down here, right? And I think that's what people forget is like it doesn't matter until this chart comes back to my $500 million entry. It just doesn't matter. Now, through some long convoluted way, right? Debt gets more expensive. If Apple wasn't $1 trillion company and couldn't just borrow money from whomever, then maybe that would impact their OpEx or whatever, and through some long roundabout way, eventually it could affect the price, but not really on a day trading time scale. Typical choppy Monday. Yep. I'm OTA trained now, just called Trading Academy. What you do is new for me. I like it. OTA trade. I haven't heard of that. Check it out. How do you come across using volume indicator and node edges? Where you just, oh yeah, I never finished my story. Philosophically, I've always believed in understanding where people are positioned, right? I guess a lot of my trading philosophy was influenced by just me doing other business, especially in real estate, right? So like ran a company with some dudes in New York for a little bit where we were like raising money to acquire real estate, and also have my own real estate holdings. And you just get a smell for how people behave when a lot of money is on the line, right? And that was really the first time with it. And then also even just like working in Silicon Valley and things like that and seeing how people actually think about money definitely influences my trading. So suffice to say, I really believe that everything that we see is just based off of people's positioning. Now, without the volume profile, we have a bit of information, right? We know where the lows are, we know the edges are, so we know there's people going to be trapped here. Okay, we know there's people going to be trapped here, right? All these edges is going to be traps. But I need to know how strong these traps are. What are the odds that a trend line is going to break on a particular day, right? If we approach a trend line in a low value area, it's very likely to break, right? If a trend line has confluence with the edge of a shelf on the weekly or the daily, it's probably not going to break, right? Just little things like that give us way more intuition about which of these prices actually matter. Okay, if I go to let's go to a really big time frame, the monthly. Okay, and let's just get rid of all this text. We don't need it. Let's get our visible range volume profile on. If we're looking at the market on the monthly, we can actually see that there's a lot of volume, a lot of volume down here. Obviously, you came down and dipped. We also have this trend line here, but these magnets, these liquidity, these little edges in the market matter a lot. And if you pay attention to them on the higher time frame, that's going to allow you to get those like disgustingly good entries, right? Because people have to trade around their positions. They have to. They have to, right? Just like if you have $1,000 prop account and it comes back to your entry, right? You have to make a decision. It's the same for people with $1 billion accounts. It's the exact same psychology. There's idiots with more money. So I arrived at it through thousands of hours of chart time and testing. That's why I'm so absolutely insane about journaling. I just journaled every single day. I'd write down a plan. You guys can get my free journal template. But if you're a new trader, if you've been doing this for 3 months, for example, and you don't know what you did last week or why you did it, you're really wasting your time. You're honest to God wasting your time. You are a time waster because you're just never going to be successful. You can't improve if what you don't measure, right? If you took 4 trades on Friday and you have no idea why you took them, right? No idea why you made or lost money, how are you going to do that again, right? Especially if you're a trader who shoots from the hip, right? Because over time, things aren't going to click. You're not going to recognize structure and all the structure on different time frames because you're not actually putting in the reps to think about what you're seeing. You're just thinking about what to do. Online Trading Academy, gotcha. They were hit with a lawsuit several years ago because of traders owners. Joshua was representing them, and they said I'm called Trading Academy. Oh, never heard of them, but yeah, my system's definitely not a silver bullet. It's really just understanding basic risk, right? So there's some fundamental laws, right? So I mentioned this last week, but in an uptrend, this is a pop quiz for the chat. What happens if you hold a long enough? What's the answer, guys? In an uptrend, if you hold a long enough, what happens? In an uptrend, I'm gonna start singing. You go green. Paulo got it. You go green. In an uptrend, if you hold a trade long enough, you go green. Vice versa is true as well. So regardless of whatever system you're using, if you're using mine, if you're using ICT, ABC, XYZ, whatever system you're trading, you should at least be trading with the trend, right? It's the same thing for a downtrend. If you're in a downtrend, hold a short long enough, it'll go green. The market does have an upward bias, though, which we can see on the monthly. Okay, the market tends to go up, but there's nothing wrong with trading downtrends, right? Just want to call that out, though. So this is where these levels come into play, right? Prior day high, prior day low, overnight high, overnight low. Whenever we sweep these edges, we are taking out the last man, the last person. Okay, and I'll explain this concept. I'll call the last man theory, but probably not an original thought. I don't know. That's what I call it. There were people shorting here yesterday, just like there's some people who got trapped short here right now, right? Even though I told them not to do it. These people, as soon as we got to this price here today, okay, the people in this zone, let's just box it out, call it a zone. The people in this zone, okay, we select a bar. Actually, let's just do a real example, okay? I went short here, okay? Ah, crap. What am I going to do when the market comes back to my entry? Okay, me and all the other geniuses that shorted at the lows are going to be market aggressors long, right? So we're going to get out. All right, so you have a bunch of buys come in. Same for the other side of the market, right? So these edges are really, really important for taking action because they're the best areas to get an immediate response, as well as to snipe the higher or the low of the day, right? It's not uncommon for us to get the actual high or low of any given session and just hold that because we wait for these edges. So if you think about the market, and honestly, this isn't even rocket science, it's just executing it and adding the layers is where the complexity is, right? The multiple time frames, all that. But if you just put as much wind in your sail as possible, going long in an uptrend, going short in a downtrend, waiting for the edges that we know exist instead of trying to finagle inside of the range, you're eliminating a lot of bad behavior, which means you're way more likely to be green. So It's really simple when I lay it out. A lot of people make it complicated. Great point on the journaling. I need to start. Haven't really journaled. Yeah, I would separate performance tracking from journaling too. So use an automated tool to see your stats, but you need a journal. You need to write down why you thought the thoughts that you had and all of your behaviors in the market, right? You really need to understand why you made a decision, not just for bad trades, okay? If you had an outlier week, for example, green week, you should ask yourself, what was unique about this week? Were we trending differently? Were we ranging? Did I take more trades? Did I take less trades? What time of day was I most profitable in? What's my average hold time for winning trades, losing trades? What was I feeling? Did I eat breakfast? Did something happen at the time? Same for red days, right? Did I have a red day after I got a fight with my wife? My freaking dog died? You know, whatever it is, it'll add so much context to the numbers. And you need that. NQ swept the overnight low, but tapped the prior low to the tick. Do you consider those exact touches, or only if we sweep past by a tick or so? Yeah, front ran it. Technically, we haven't swept that. Realistically, if we look at the volume at this price, we can actually see how many, I mean, we can intuit how many people might be trapped here, right? So we zoom out, add the VP, right? We can get some intuition about how many people are trapped here, right? It's a pretty smooth edge though. So because it didn't sweep it fully, it's just less good. Honestly, is how I think about it. It's just less good. That's why I use both of them together though, right? ES came, swept prior day, push it higher, we have the trend line above. But ideally, it does a proper sweep. $60 points for 4 hours before open. And Q swept both range. SL at open. There's the value area high retest I talked about. Rewind the stream, guys. Just rewind it. If you're late, I'm gonna eat these eggs. I gotta figure out this music, guys. I'm jamming. You guys could feel what I'm feeling. Just a bunch of house music. Is the prior day from ES still on the table if it was swept overnight? I deleted the ES prior day line because of the overnight sweep. ES prior day, if, wait, what? I'm not understanding your question. If it was swept overnight? Well, good question. So what edges matter? These are like the 4 default edges. Every pivot in the market technically matters, right? So let's just realistically, right? So this prior day low was right here. It already got swept overnight, like you said. So we do have this edge right here. And really, there's this daily low. So these are like the default set, right? These are the These are the Pokemon cards everybody gets, but sometimes the game is a little bit different. Today, by the way, is it's just a lower quality day, right? There's a little bit of wonkiness. This got swept here, right? NQ did a retest. There's enough divergences to where it's just like, it's a lower quality day. Exactly the quality, I don't know. Pick a tier. It's not an A tier day though. So I would look for this low here. The real thing that you want to do is on both of these tickers, again, just zoom out. Okay, I already did this on the macro, top of the next shelf, lower, but you want to look at the VP, right? So you can see that we're in a node. Price action aside, there's this node that we're inside of up here. There's low value below us, so if we crack this, we're going to rip lower. And the top of the next shelf, I think I did this on the daily time frame, 64.31, right? There's that node there. All right, cool. It was a good day. You guys asked some good questions today, which is good. That's why I do this. So my plan for the rest of the day, I want to see if we actually crack. I'll put an alert on this line here. This is the low from Thursday. I'm thinking about my position on a much bigger time frame. So really what I want to see here today is, are we coming for these Thursday, or I guess this was the 14th. Where is the 14th on NQ? That's pretty diverged there. Let me see. Let me get rid of all this stuff on my chart. Hold up, guys. Yeah, we could come for this 23. If we break lower, I'll look for a sweep of these lows here and a rejection around this area, 23,556. A little bounce there. We do have just this trend line in general. Okay, it's only been tested twice. Well, yeah, it's Monday. I'm watching to see what happens. The next 4-hour candle closes at 2. And that'll be when I look to take a trade today. It'll be 2 p.m. We'll have another 4-hour candle and should either know exactly. The day could just chop all day. That's going to be my plan, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. execution. Shout out to the people who just joined today. Subscribe. I'll stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Usually. When you say overnight high and low, are you talking market Asian open until New York? So 6 p.m. settlement open. So 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is overnight to me. Okay. It's the time when RTH closes to before it opens. I consider that's all overnight to me. Any new firms this week? Hopefully, have a few conversations lined up. So we'll see. I got to run though, guys. I appreciate you. Have an amazing Monday. Yeah. I'll see you in the next stream. Join the Discord if you want to hang out with us. Not just on stream. We are in there 24/7. The link is in my description, I think. It's wap.com/tradeedge.